While years of hard work are currently paying off in a big way for Matt Rife, his path to seemingly sudden fame has been both tragic and challenging. The small town where Matt Rife grew up, North Lewisburg, Ohio, was no place for an aspiring comedian to find ears for his stand-up material. In his OnlyFans special, Rife recalled that his rural alma mater even had a drive-your-tractor-to-school day for their school spirit week.
We would have one day in that week when like the rich kids would pull up and just flex on us, John Deere style.
Rife's family didn't possess any of that agricultural affluence, and one of those tractors probably could have hauled their entire home away. As Rife described on the Sharp Tongue podcast, he grew up in a trailer. As none of his family members had previously pursued higher education, expectations for Rife and his future career were limited if he decided to remain in his hometown. On Brandon's Comedy Bomb show, Rife said he likely would have ended up getting a job at a local Honda plant if he hadn't discovered stand-up at a young age. Rife first realized that he could make people laugh at school, but his teachers were less than encouraging of his talent. As Rife shared on Riffin' with Griffin, his outlandish behavior in biology class even caused his teacher to predict he would end up a fast food worker. Some of the funniest stand-up stars discover their aptitude for their craft when they experience something painful and begin to use humor as a coping mechanism. On the Cancelled with Tana Mojo podcast, Matt Rife mentioned this commonality among comedians after revealing that he grew up without a father. He even went so far as to say, "It's the key to success, absolutely. You have to have some trauma." Rife was just a baby when his father, Michael Eric Gutska, died by suicide in his early 20s, so the comedian never got to know him. Speaking with Bert Kreischer on the Bertcast podcast, he observed that reaching his own mid-20s was a surreal experience for this reason.
I'm 26 now, and we think about your dad, no matter what stage, you think of like a grown man. But it's like, I'm older than my dad ever was.
Rife also revealed that he spoke to his mother about Gutska's mental state before his death and learned that he'd likely been struggling with depression. He also told Kreischer that Gutska's own father basically dared him to kill himself after Gutska said that he was feeling suicidal. On top of all this, Rife learned that his late father had been uncertain that he was his biological son and demanded a paternity test. The comedian explained that this was because his mother and Gutska had split up before his birth. Rife reflected that, to this day, he remains unsure of the results of the test and if he still has a biological father out there somewhere. When Matt Rife looks out at the audience during a stand-up set, he wants to see his stage lights reflected off his pearly white teeth. For a long time, however, he didn't even feel comfortable laughing along with his fans. On Bertcast, Rife said he got veneers using money he made while touring with late comedian Ralphie May. By then, he'd already filmed 2 seasons of Wild 'N Out with what he described as Ohio teeth. Among Rife's dental issues was a gap between his front teeth, which was often the subject of mockery by his classmates. Despite Rife's obvious sense of humor, he explained during his OnlyFans special that these quips hit a little too close to home. On Off the Vine, Rife revealed that his insecurity about his appearance was one reason he began trying to make others laugh.
Or you get bullied or something like that, and you're like, well, rather than everybody see it hurts me, how about we just make a joke about it? Now I'm on their side as well.
After Rife got his mouth makeover done, he was so satisfied with the work on his teeth, he even filmed a testimonial for the LA-based doctor. On Bertcast, Rife shared that he was 5 years old when his mother got remarried to a man with 3 daughters from a previous relationship. Rife doesn't mention his stepfather often, but did tell Very Good Light that he was working as a mechanic in 2017. Rife's mom, meanwhile, had a job at an Amazon warehouse. He explained, "We didn't really have a lot while growing up anyways, so I just really followed my dreams because I really didn't have any other options." Rife's home life was apparently another incentive to do whatever it took to build something sustainable for himself. When describing what his stepfather was like on the Sharp Tongue podcast, Rife described him as a stereotypical movie stepdad. By this, he meant his stepfather was a violent alcoholic who physically abused Rife often. According to the comedian, his mother and stepfather had a daughter together and stayed unhappily married for years after their relationship fell apart. Rife explained that neither member of the couple had the resources to leave the other, though they eventually did divorce. Rife remains close to his mom, and he revealed on Cancelled with Tana Mojo that he planned to use the resources he's accumulated through comedy to buy her a house. In 2017, Last Comic Standing star Ralphie May died at age 45. He had played a crucial role in Matt Rife's stand-up career by providing him with opportunities that gave him some invaluable comedy cred. For instance, he offered Rife a guest spot when he was still a teen, and later invited his eager young apprentice to tour with him. Before all that, though, May broke Rife's heart. On Jeremiah Wonders, Rife recounted how he reached out to May on Twitter and convinced the comedy vet to let him perform a set during one of May's stops in Ohio. Unfortunately, Rife's fretful mom interfered with the realization of a then 16-year-old's dream.
She's like making me ask him all these questions. What time do I need to get there? How long? Like, do my parents need to do anything?
All these inquiries led May to realize that Rife wasn't quite ready for such a major opportunity, and he ultimately rescinded his offer. The change of heart crushed Rife, who barely spoke to his mother in the ensuing weeks. But May offered Rife another guest spot when the younger comedian was better prepared for it. Not only was this a huge moment for Rife's career, it was also his first paying comedy gig, as May personally handed him $100. Rife elaborated that when he moved to LA to pursue comedy full-time, May was also very generous. He bought Rife meals and even paid him significant bonuses during the holiday season. In 2021, Rife honored his old friend on Twitter, simply writing, "I miss Ralphie May." Matt Rife has been candid about his mental health issues, even informing his fans that he has anxiety and clinical depression during his OnlyFans special. In his typical fashion, he humorously spun the diagnosis by observing that nobody feels compassion for him because he's physically attractive. During the pandemic, Rife also began struggling with panic attacks, which can cause startling symptoms such as an extreme feeling of terror, difficulty breathing, and an increased heart rate. Sometimes people who suffer from panic attacks even fear that they're experiencing a heart attack. Rife described the experience on the Sharp Tongue podcast, saying, "It's the scariest thing I could possibly imagine anybody going through." According to Rife, his first panic attack was so frightening that it caused a vicious cycle in which the PTSD he feels from the first attack can trigger further anxious feelings and panic attacks. His therapist determined that one of Rife's issues was the stagnant lifestyle he was suddenly forced to adopt when COVID hit and the entertainment industry pretty much shut down. This inspired Rife to find a way to keep performing. However, when he and his friend Paul Aaliyah brought their socially distanced low-key outside shows to the live comedy's starved masses, the masses didn't always show up. Aaliyah explained to Deadline that he and Rife would often lose money in the process of organizing the performances. Still, Rife enjoyed performing for a crowd of less than 20 people under cheap tents and the threat of rain because it was so worth it just to have an outlet to perform. Matt Rife gives his late grandfather, Steve Rife, a lot of credit for his comedy career. On Dropouts, he shared that the two of them loved watching funny movies together. It was through Steve that Matt was introduced to comedy icons such as Adam Sandler, David Spade, and Jim Carrey growing up. Matt compared Steve to Robert De Niro's Dirty Grandpa character and revealed that his grandfather was one of the first people who appreciated his own burgeoning talent for comedy, saying, "He thought I was the funniest person in the entire world." Sadly, Steve died in November 2022, just 2 weeks before he was supposed to watch his grandson film the special named in his honor, Matthew Stephen Rife. Matt got emotional while speaking about his devastating loss during the special.
If I have ever made any of you laugh, ever, it's because of him.
Rife also told the audience that his grandpa supported his comedy career when he was a teenager by buying 5 tickets for each of his shows. This was a particularly helpful move for the young comedian, as he was required to sell a minimum of 5 tickets to perform at all. To celebrate Stephen's supportive nature, he even left an empty chair on the stage of his special in honor of his memory. On the About Last Night podcast, Rife shared that he wears a necklace he had once given to his grandfather. Stephen was holding that same necklace when he died. Rife also bears a tattoo of the nickname his grandfather gave him long before he ever dreamed of doing stand-up in Los Angeles, Hollywood. Instead of following the same career blueprints of the comedy greats that came before him, Matt Rife has often had to make his own opportunities. He crowdfunded money to produce his own specials, organized socially distanced comedy shows during the pandemic, and used social media as an effective promotional tool. In 2022, however, Rife was still trying to raise his profile by building a professional relationship with a platform that can greatly increase a comedian's outreach, Netflix. On the Sharp Tongue podcast, Rife said that he'd made arrangements to perform at one of the venues that hosted the Netflix is a Joke comedy festival that year. Weeks later, his agent received an email saying that Rife couldn't perform after all. He recalled, "Come to find out, a friend of mine who I have known for 10 years since I was 16 years old was in a power position at this venue recently, and they said no to me." When Rife wanted to discuss the matter with this former friend, he refused to speak to him. Rife wouldn't name names in that instance, but on Burtcast, he also revealed that he and Dane Cook had a falling out when he released his 2021 OnlyFans special. Rife didn't elaborate on what went down, but this had to be tough for him. The comedians had been tour mates, and Rife told 1883 magazine that seeing Cook perform live is what inspired him to pursue a comedy career. If you or someone you know needs help with mental health, please contact the crisis text line by texting HOME to 741-741, call the National Alliance on Mental Illness helpline at 1-800-950-NAMI 6264, or visit the National Institute of Mental Health website.